The morning sun painted golden streaks across Mountain Ridge Lake as I cast my line into the crystal clear water. This had been my Saturday morning ritual for 3 years, ever since I bought the cabin overlooking this pristine alpine lake. The wooden dock creaked beneath my feet, a familiar and comforting sound that meant peace, solitude, and the simple joy of fishing. "Excuse me." A sharp voice shattered the tranquility like a stone through glass. I turned to see Deborah Winters marching down the gravel path toward my dock. Her purple blazer immaculate despite the early hour, her blonde hair pulled back, so tightly it seemed to stretch her perpetual frown even wider. As president of the Mountain Ridge HOA, Deborah had made it her personal mission to regulate every aspect of our small lakeside community. "Good morning, Deborah," I said, keeping my tone neutral. Experience had taught me that any emotion, positive or negative, only fueled her fire. "It is not a good morning, Marcus." She stopped at the edge of my dock, hands on her hips. "I've received multiple complaints about your fishing activities." I blinked. "Complaints? From whom?" "That's confidential." She pulled out her phone, scrolling with theatrical precision. Section 7, Paragraph 4 of the HOA bylaws clearly states that recreational water activities must not disturb the aesthetic tranquility of community spaces. "Deborah, I'm fishing for my own dock. The property line extends to the water. The lake is a shared community resource," she snapped, her voice rising. "And your constant fishing disrupts the peaceful ambience that our residents expect. You're here every weekend, sometimes at dawn. It's excessive." Behind her, I noticed Officer Jake Morrison stepping out of his patrol car, looking uncomfortable. Jake and I had gone to high school together, and he'd been responding to Deborah's calls for years. Everything from suspicious teenagers skateboarding to someone's grass being a quarter-inch too tall. Deborah called about a water disturbance. Jake said apologetically, walking over. I told her it's not a police matter, but she insisted I come document it. "Document what?" "Me fishing legally on my own property." Deborah's face flushed red. "This is harassment, Marcus. I'm within my rights to protect our community standards. If you won't comply voluntarily, I'll be forced to take more serious action." She stormed off, leaving Jake and me exchanging weary glances. "She's getting worse," Jake muttered. "Last week she tried to cite the Hendersons because their dog barked at a squirrel. I reeled in my line. The morning was ruined anyway. Thanks for coming out, Jake. Sorry she's wasting your time. Part of the job." He hesitated. "Just watch yourself, Marcus. When Deborah gets fixated on something, she doesn't let go." The following Saturday, I arrived at my dock to find the lake had changed. The water, usually crystal clear, had taken on a murky greenish tint. A strange chemical smell hung in the air, and the surface was covered with a thin film that caught the light in oily rainbow patterns. My stomach dropped. Something was very wrong. I called Jake immediately. Within an hour, my property was swarming with emergency vehicles. Jake had brought the fire chief, and someone had called a county environmental officer, a stern woman named Patricia Chun, who took one look at the water and immediately cordoned off the entire lake. "Don't touch the water," Patricia said, pulling on latex gloves. "Don't let any animals near it. I'm taking samples now, but this looks like deliberate contamination." "Deliberate?" My voice cracked. Who would poison a lake? That's what we're going to find out. As Patricia collected water samples in sealed containers, more people began arriving. The Hendersons from 2 houses down, the Martinez family, who lived up the hill, old Mr. Chun, who'd been here longer than anyone. They all stood on the shore, staring at the ruined water with expressions of horror and confusion. "What happened?" Mrs. Henderson asked, clutching her husband's arm. Before I could answer, Deborah's distinctive voice cut through the growing crowd. "This is exactly why I warn about excessive fishing. The disruption of the ecosystem has led to algae bloom. Patricia looked up sharply. This isn't algae. This is chemical contamination. Specifically, what appears to be a concentrated algae mixed with pesticides. She held up a container. These are illegal to use in natural water bodies. This wasn't an accident or natural occurrence. Someone deliberately dumped this into the lake. The crowd went silent. Deborah's face had gone pale, but she pressed on. Well, obviously someone who was tired of the constant fishing disruptions decided to. Are you confessing? Jake stepped forward, his expression no longer friendly. Because it sounds like you know something about this. I know. I'm simply saying that Marcus's irresponsible behavior has consequences. Patricia's phone rang. She answered, listened, and her expression went from serious to grave. We have a major problem, she announced to the crowd. This lake feeds into Mountain Ridge Spring, which supplies drinking water to the entire community. Everyone here gets their water from that aquifer. The contamination has already reached the treatment facility. A ripple of shock went through the crowd. Mrs. Martinez grabbed her children closer. Mr. Chun sat down heavily on a rock. How bad is it? Someone asked. The treatment plant is shutting down immediately. Nobody drink tap water until we can flush the system completely. That could take weeks. Patricia turned to Jake. We need to find out who did this, now. This is criminal endangerment. Deborah had backed away, her face shifting from pale to splotchy red. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know the lake connected to. I thought it was just a decorative pond. The crowd turned toward her like a wave. What did you do, Deborah? Jake's voice was ice. She crumbled. I just wanted him to stop fishing. It was unsightly disruptive, the bylaws clearly state. Her voice became desperate. I bought some lake treatment chemicals online. The website said they were safe for water features. I just want to make the water too murky for a fish. So he'd stop. You poison our drinking water over fishing? Mr. Henderson's voice thundered across the lake. My grandchildren visited last weekend. They could have been poisoned. I didn't know. Deborah shrieked. How was I supposed to know it was connected to the water supply? Nobody told me. Patricia stepped forward, her voice cutting. Every property owner here received documentation about the watershed when they purchased their homes. It's public record. You were informed. Jake pulled out his handcuffs. Deborah Winters, you're under arrest for criminal mischief, environmental contamination, and reckless endangerment. As Jake read Deborah her rights, she continued protesting about bylaws and regulations and aesthetic standards, her voice growing shriller until Jake helped her into the patrol car and the door cut off her complaints. 3 months later, I stood on my dock again, watching the sunrise over Mountain Ridge Lake. The water sparkled clean once more. Patricia and her team had worked miracles to flush and restore the ecosystem. The fish were returning. The community had rallied together, sharing bottled water and meals while the treatment plant was repaired.